very chunky there. Chunky.
I don't think so. Call the meeting to order. Any items from the public? Need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, I move we approve the agenda for Thursday, July the 14th, if there's no modifications or changes.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Any questions on the purchase order?
Mr. President, if I could just take a few minutes to point out just a few things out, nothing of no major issue. The purchase order is, as you can see, is fairly large. This month total is $838,000 and change, but half of that is payments that were our semi-annual payment and quarterly payments being made to the risk pool, which is the very first item on the top page. What I do want to point out is there are two small ancillary policies, just as a reminder to the council that we keep in place, although we've never needed it. We do keep a small accident health policy on the participants in our community service program, as well as an accident health policy on our deputy reserves. We're very, very fortunate. We've never needed them, but it's worth it. You can see combined total premium is slightly more than $1,100, and I think that's just good to have in our back pocket.
Without a doubt.
On page 2, you'll see a payment made to the Journal in the amount of $845.25. As this council knows, the Journal is going through a lot of internal changes, changing the way they do billing, changing who takes care of their billing, how we place legal ads. We actually do the display ads ourselves and place them. It's formatted, they get it, send it back to us with a price, and then we approve it. But anyway,
So we're creating our own column instead.
we are, yes, the whole brand new process that Penny and Tracy and Julie had to learn. But they continue to charge us the rates that they do.
Self-checkout.
Pretty much. The bill for $845.25 is actually for the mandatory Class 2 legal ad that we have to run in March to publish our budget and our levy rates.
Okay.
So that's just now coming through.
Are we going to have to start delivering the Journal too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you get mine a little earlier?
I'll try.
Mine comes plenty early. It's the morning Herald, the Herald Mail I can't get consistent delivery.
And they continue to increase their subscription fees.
Yeah. And now we're talking about printing 3 days a week
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Well, do you-
insane.
I mean, the cost of the ink is pretty soft.
Well, I don't know. I never priced it.
I remember when you get the Journal and the classified would be like 6 pages. I looked at the classified in the Journal last week and it was half a page.
Yeah, I mean, but why would you advertise on the Journal?
I know. It's what-
I mean,
Facebook.
Oh, I
I
understand.
I stopped putting want ads on the Journal.
Unless the state of West Virginia mandates
Well, yeah.
On page 4, you'll
Thing
see
with monopolies, that's for sure.
a payment to Holtzman Oil Company for 227 gallons of 5W30 motor oil in the amount of $2,582.13. This is our bulk oil purchase that's delivered to EPTA for central garage operations. We monitor that. That'll last us about 4 months.
So it's motor oil.
Yes. It's
How
4
much
months.
has it increased?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
Well, I'll look at that and I'll let you know. So we take about
It was the bucket.
3 deliveries of that a year. On page 5, 2 down, there's a payment to TI Dawson Heating and Air Conditioning. As you know, our heating and air conditioning systems at 100 West King, we've been holding them together with Band-Aids and duct tape and string for a while. The weekend before our long weekend of West Virginia Day, the one primary air conditioning unit, 100 West King, crapped out. We did purchase a new unit, and that was installed, and we really didn't have any choice. We had to take care of that. On page 9, you'll see a payment for Thomas Somerville and Company for the amount of $7,399.22. Several weeks ago, it came to our attention that I think it's a 100-gallon hot water heater in 520 South Raleigh Street, which is only
80 gallons.
80 gallons. Has only been in operation since 2014, had completely rusted at the bottom and was leaking. We do have a whole building water softening system on that. But of course the unit had to be replaced. So at Councilperson Delier's suggestion, we did look into the cost of on-demand hot water heater, tankless. And this is actually the low quote from Thomas Somerville, and Bubby Trineri installed it.
Natural gas.
So it is a on-demand hot water heater.
Much more efficient than the old tank as well.
And then finally, on page 10, very top entry, Mid-Atlantic entry, repairs to the sheriff's gate. We had a cruiser. A deputy was returning late one evening from a mental hygiene transport, and this is just to point out that mental hygiene continues to cost us money, not only in wages and fuel and wear and tear on the cruiser, but also wear and tear on our buildings. Deputy was anxious to get back after a long mental hygiene transport and didn't wait for the gate to the sheriff's department to fully open and get the gate before it was open. So,
Here on page 9, it says Eastern Panhandle first quarter budget allocation.
yes, sir.
Eastern Panhandle what?
That's EPTA,
Oh,
Transit Authority.
okay. It never finished out the, like,
Yeah, no, that's the Transit Authority.
So I seen something on the I'm trying to think of, I don't remember where it was, but it was the payment to Tinsman. I'm assuming that would be last
That
month.
was for June,
Okay.
so he's done. Yes, sir.
Has anybody inspected the Pikeside Waterway lately? I got a couple
It
calls.
was actually it was groomed well before the 4th of July holiday, and then Jack was down there because C&D they don't have their herbicide license, but Jack does. So Jack was down and took care of the riprap last week. So yes, it's been, in fact, a good monitor of that is Barb Gooden's mother. Actually lives on the Pike side, and Jack called her and wanted to make sure that.
Yeah.
And Barb even thanked him for checking. So yes, it's been taken care of.
Another thing that, Chairman, I was just looking at is there's an invoice on page 5 from AmeriGas for a 500-gallon tank rental of $167.64.
A tank rental?
Yeah.
What is that, because we're not using fuel, they're
It's a
charging us?
500-gallon tank, so I don't know.
I can't.
Sounds like a tank that would be, the big.
That'd be a barrier.
If it's
Or a
buried,
above- a
we
big above ground.
gotta, it's gotta be above ground because we could bury them, we own them.
But we need
No.
to, no, you can.
No, you
No,
can
they'll
rent-
bury
okay.
them and rent them to you, which is ridiculous. I mean,
So we need to check into that, Alan, and find out what's going on there. And a lot of times, I don't know. I mean, that's the first time I've seen it.
well, I can tell you that, which page was that?
It's on
Page
page
5.
5, second up from the
Okay.
bottom.
I can tell you that several years ago, AmeriGas sent me a bill and increased my fee on the gas because I was renting a tank, and I had a receipt where I paid for it. And we went back and forth, and they credited me back like 6 months because apparently they'd been doing it. My wife didn't catch it, and so they credited me back. And within, I don't know, another 6 months, they did it again. And they didn't own the tank, so you probably should check to see if we own the tank, because we could. And there was actually a class action lawsuit against AmeriGas for the same thing.
Oh, yeah, they tried it on.
Yeah.
Because I had the same fight with them.
Yeah.
I'll get with Tracy and Jack again.
But yeah, it's.
Finally, I
can't-
just switched suppliers. I said, you know what? I ain't
I'm sure it's animal control, but I'll check.
And I would, no, Roach supplies animal
Do they?
control, I think.
Okay. I'll check, I'll let you know.
Typically, like Dan said, 9 times out of 10, there's something not right about it. You can pretty much convince them that they're wrong because they don't have the necessary paperwork most of the time, to be honest with you. No internal budget revision,
No,
Mr.
sir, none
Davis.
today, early on in the budget.
We have some change in status and try not to butcher up too bad. New hire recommendation received from Katie Deleghetti, prosecuting attorney for Claire Stansel as a legal assistant effective July 25th, 2022, with an annual salary of $34,000. Chelsea Latham as a legal assistant, administrative assistant, effective July 25th, 2022, with an annual salary of $34,000. And Casey Nathaniel Putney as an assistant prosecuting attorney, effective August 8th, 2022, with an annual salary of $66,500. New hire recommendation received from Tim Zaya, Community Correction Director, for Shasta Redmond as a home confinement officer, effective July 18th, 2022, with an annual salary of $37,509. New hire recommendation received from Sheriff Nathan Harmon for Brianne Salvador as an administrative assistant dispatcher / dispatcher, effective July 18th, 2022, with an annual salary of $31,875.
And that is, as you know, we eliminated the position, but that is to backfill a vacancy left by Elena Mercurio that resigned.
Change in status received from Katie Deleghetti, prosecuting attorney, for Haley Pacino, for a salary change of $38,500 to $43,500, effective July 15th, 2022. Changes in status received from Larry Hess for Linda Timbrook for a salary change from $13.50 per hour to $15.50 per hour, effective July 1st, 2022. And Kaylee Del Monte for a salary change from $11.50 per hour to $13.50 per hour, effective July 1st, 2022.
And these are both temporary seasonal positions to help them through the busy time.
Resignation received from the Sheriff's Department for Luke Watts, effective June 23rd, 2022, and Brittany Connor, effective July 7th, 2022. Or what position did they?
Both deputies, so
Is that
now
right?
he's down to 64.
Okay. Resignation received from the DRC from Jordan Bailey, effective July 6, 2022. Resignation received from Home Confinement from Quincy Miltonberger, effective July 8, 2022. Resignation received from IT for McKaylee McDonough, effective July 22nd, 2022.
Just so the council is aware, we continue to see a very, very competitive labor market. For example, Michaela McDonald, who has been with IT for just a little bit more than a year, she was an IT specialist too. Everyone in this area knows we kind of have the best of the best. She was actively recruited by the MPO. They offered her considerably more money and some flexibility to work from home. So,
Then that market has blown up.
yeah,
That market has blown up with increases. I mean, it's crazy. That's increased way faster than the markets that I deal in.
but we're seeing it on like therapists, the therapist position that we're desperately in need of for our behavioral health portion of the day report center. We backfilled them all except one, but we're having and that's like the youth one that the council authorized. We're having a difficult time recruiting for that. So.
Since you said that, we talked briefly about, see if we wanted to make some adjustments, some wages, about a month and a half ago. You got the unencumbered fund balance and stuff, and then pretty much closing out the books. You plan on having a presentation for us anytime soon?
August the 11th.
Are we doing exit interviews on these deputies and find out if it's, legal for financial?
The sheriff is very, very good at providing us with background related to the resignations. And yes, we personally don't do them, but I'm well aware of both Deputy Watts and Deputy Connor's reason for, and it's not what neither one of these were wage related.
All right.
I texted Tracy on this little America since she couldn't be there this morning. But she says the annual rental of the propane tank at the radio tower for the generator.
Well, then we need to go back and tell them that ask them how cheap they can sell it to us for, because usually if you pay rent, you beat the purchase price down.
Right, and that tank's gonna sit there, all it does is cycle, I'm sure, it just goes through its cycle and use very minimal.
Yeah, but we should never rent a tank.
There should be a commercial rate on that too.
We'll take care of a little bit.
And probably, and we just gotta also make sure that we don't rent a tank. They have to provide us with a rental agreement or something. Okay, approval of minutes. Everyone was present for June 30th, 2022. Any questions or corrections on those?
Before we move too much forward, council person Delia asked us about wages and whether we're keeping track of all of that. As you know, we try to peg our wages with the sheriff's department comparable to or slightly above MPO, which is kind of our Martinsburg Police Department, which was kind of our commitment to them. We have slipped behind them again, and I'll be mentioning that on August the 11th when I bring all that information in.
But that was a part of the plan.
Yes, sir, it would be.
All right.
So when you do that, are you gonna look at the surrounding areas?
Yes,
too?
sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And on the council calendars, be here next Thursday on the 21st. I believe right now Eddie and myself will both be out.
Do you realize July is almost half over?
And
What the heck is going on here?
Did you get that? You figured that out because it was?
No, I got a
14?
memo. I got a memo.
So it said it was half over?
Yeah.
Wow. Gotcha. Does your wife send that stuff to you just to
Somebody
keep it
did.
on?
I didn't double check. I got to check on it.
all right, tonight there's a fire board meeting here at 6:30 p.m. in the chamber. Monday the 18th, 4 p.m. EPTA. 5:30 Main Street, Martinsburg. 6 p.m. Planning Commission. 6 p.m. Airport Authority. Tuesday the 19th at 9 a.m. WRNR. Will Lawrenson, Fiduciary Supervisor, will be on. 11:30 a.m. Parks and Rec. 5 p.m. Sewer District. 6 p.m. Stormwater District. Wednesday the 20th, 4 p.m. Berkeley County Criminal Justice Board will be meeting at 6 p.m. Solid Waste Authority. Any changes or corrections on any of those boards?
No, but I am gonna put down that Will Lawrenson is gonna be on the radio so I can send in a couple of messages, and I'd encourage everybody to do the same.
That's his punishment for not getting in the dunk tank.
Right, there you go. There you go.
All right, moving
Send
on.
them to Rob,
Yeah,
because then Rob will ask them.
bond release. We have Stonecrest Phase 1, Section 4, lots 40 through 51. BCP file number 2107-263, tied to BCP file number 013-07, bond number 100-369-3301. Engineering Department has made that recommendation. We have a bond release, Stonecrest PUD, Phase 1, Section 1, lots 1 through 10, and 76 through 89. BCP file number 2011-320, tied to BCP file number 022-15, bond number 1001057-815. And Engineering Department has made that recommendation. Any Questions or concerns on those?
I'd like to say that, have we solved the problem of lots being sold off of common properties and those type of things moving forward? Because if I'm understanding correctly, we're still, 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, I started this conversation about solving those problems, and I believe we're still dealing with some of those lots that were sold off, aren't we?
I'll ask county attorney to help as well, but we have, I think we've gotten that fixed to the point where it shouldn't happen anymore. Obviously, there's always a few stragglers or something that slips through the cracks, but we've gotten it pretty much solved at this point. But I know that we have had several people want bonds completely released that have, we have been through and said, no, you haven't transferred the property. We've caught partial transfers where they'll transfer the road, but they don't necessarily transfer the stormwater management lots. So I think we have it now to where it is. I don't want to say 100% foolproof. Nothing's that way, but we're very, very, very close.
Well, I appreciate it because I know it's an issue, and I think it's going to be an issue that we're still plagued with for years to come, trying to clean that up. But I appreciate that you guys.
We appreciate you all helping us because, the developers, contractors, bondholders, they want to get their money back. But at the end of the day, our main goal is to try to protect the HOA because they don't always know what they don't know what they get.
Right.
And, it's a little bit different on the commercial site plan stuff. Those are very cut and dry for the most part. But it's the residential thing that we try to, make sure that the HOA is protected.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. No need for Mr. Hess this morning. Board and meeting reports, Mr. Barnhart.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I was unable to attend the Board of Health meeting, but I was able to attend the Public Service Water District meeting, which was held just an hour later. It was a short meeting. They, due to the state Public Service Commission, they had to revise their leak adjustment policy. So they did that, so people can complain if they have a leak and what the criteria is to that. And they
Not that would happen.
yeah. And we had the executive director's report, and it was pretty much routine by the looks of it, and that was one meeting I had. Yes, Mr. Weir.
Can you ask the next time, will they allow more than one leak compensation per year?
There was some discussion about that, and it has to be, what, 200% of your water bill or something like that?
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was an issue on a line that was going into a building that was hit by a contractor, repaired many years later, blew apart because of the bad repair, replaced it, fixed it all, and then another contractor came in and hit the water meter, or hit the water hydrant, and I don't know how many 100,000 gallons of water leaked out again. So we had quite a
there used to be
few.
a maximum number, but that may have been eliminated.
Yeah, because I thought they would only allow us to apply for one leak adjustment when we really had three that wasn't our complete fault. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Delia.
I had one meeting that was canceled, and I had one meeting that I was out of town attending an old folks concert.
Old folks concert.
Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Poison and Joan Jett.
Oh my God.
That was up at Hershey, wasn't it?
Up at Hershey.
I heard about
Surprised
that.
Joan Jett's still with us.
And still
She's
doing,
63 years old. What are you saying? She's a young chick to you.
Yeah, but her lifestyle is,
Don't judge.
Like we said, she's too young compared to you. Mr. Whitaker,
I didn't have any meetings. So.
Mr. Gokenhour.
Yes, sir. Mr. Copenhagen and I attended a Board of Health meeting with septic install issues and had two separate meetings with the Redevelopment Authority.
All right, and I turned around, like Councilperson Gokenhour said, we went to the Board of Health meeting, not only septic evaluations of soil, but also to talk about food trucks. We also wanted to talk about staffing issues and but unfortunately, they didn't take us serious when Mr. Davis last Thursday said that they wanted us to be put on their agenda, and they gave us 5 minutes for comment with no dialogue.
that ain't being on the agenda.
Huh?
That's not being on the agenda.
No, it's not. And I told them, I said, they actually laid the ground law. They actually said that let me put down some ground rules, not law, of how this works. You got 5 minutes and 5 minutes only, and there won't be no dialogue going back and forth, and you state your concerns and we'll take it under consideration. So when I got up there, I said, if I wanted to talk under public comment, I could have walked in the door and told you I wanted to talk under public comment without being on the agenda. So it didn't go well. But that was enough for me to have meetings on for this week. Board and commission vacancies, any activity there?
Yeah, that's the LEPC.
Well, Mr. Walker, I think, who presented before us 2 weeks ago, had applied for the LAPC.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he had a great interview, so I'd like to make a motion to appoint him to the Berkeley County LAPC.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Is that for an unexpired term? Or is it for-
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Tracy's not here to clarify.
Yeah, you have no idea.
You want to send her an email or text message? That's straight down.
The good news is we run your office with a bare minimal staff. The bad news is we run your office with a bare minimal staff, and it only takes one or two hiccups to throw us into a
Tailspin.
tailspin.
All right, next on our agenda is Gary Wine, Deputy County Administrator. Bid recommendations to RFQ Fiber Optics Infrastructure Master Plan.
Master plan. Not just a plan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So as you'll recall, on the 9th of June, you opened, had two vendors make proposals to what they could offer to help us and guide us through that process. Ice Miller White Board from Columbus, Ohio, and Design from Blacksburg, Virginia. Both vendors had quite detailed proposals. Both had experience in exactly what you've asked and tasked us to figure out. Our recommendation is that we utilize Design 9. The next step is to work with them and come up with some sort of budget number and a contract for the services and present to the council and move forward.
Do you have any experience with design now?
We have personally, Design 9 actually did our broadband feasibility study last year. They've done work in Jefferson and Morgan County, so had good experiences from that part. That wasn't a big part of the decision with this, even though having experience with the vendors is great. The models of the two companies are a little different. The proposal from Ice Miller Whiteboard was leveraging other subs in their processes. Some of the partners they listed were a technical company called Lit Communities and an engineering A&E company, Thrasher Engineering Group. where Design 9, their proposal read to be like an in-house solution. So either way, they were both good proposals. And if the council sees fit, what we'd like to do is take the next step with the Design 9 and put a dollar figure to the project and come back very soon. And probably don't even come back, just give you the contract for you to read that and sign.
Well, yeah, we should bring, well, no, we'll schedule, you can bring it in, because that's what we did with, the engineering services for infill, and we'll just
Yeah.
stay consistent with that. If the council will recall, you, at your direction, we developed the RFQ for this master plan a couple years ago and gave it to the development authority, and it kind of languished out there and really didn't get the traction that we hoped. So we brought it back to the council, and at your direction, you decided to bring it all in-house, and that's why we're on the street. So we're probably a couple of years behind. I mean, this should have been done.
Would have been nice to be on the ground by now.
Yeah, so that's why we're here.
So this is countywide.
This is not deliverables to homes. This vision is to get in the market of owning
Condo.
technology underground from here into Virginia, and then having that available as a resource for economic development and growth.
And not only, are they going to be tasked to see whether your vision is doable, but to point out, the legal hurdles, the regulatory hurdles, is it subject to, oversight by the Public Service Commission? Do we have to form a separate utility district? Things like that we've all discussed and questioned that we really don't know the answer. So it's a pretty comprehensive study.
It is.
And it may take a while.
Good.
And that will, and also, I guess the part of the study would be potential revenue.
Absolutely. Be all inclusive.
All right. Okay. All right. Need a motion to award, if we're gonna go forward with it, award the master plan. Right now, we're just gonna pay for it ourselves. Is that the plan?
Well, what you need to accept Gary's recommendation and allow us to go back to Design 9 to get a number.
Okay.
And then that number will be brought back to you, and then at that time you'll decide.
So
whether to
basically,
move forward with the
That
study.
was
not
his
looking for it.
recommendation though, so all we have to do is
Give
make a
direction.
motion to accept the recommendation.
Continue
by
the
Mr.
process
Wine.
with Design 9.
Yes, sir.
All right. Entertain a motion.
That was it.
You sure?
I'll second it.
Can you repeat
It
it?
sounded like it, was it?
It kind of hinted at it.
It was kind of a
I'd
question, I
like to make a
thought.
motion to accept
There you go.
Mr. Gary Wine's recommendation to move forward with the Design Wine, or Design Wine.
No affiliation.
Associated with Design 9 and get the a cost at also.
That second.
So we have a
Still
motion, we have a
stands.
second. Just laugh because I figured he would say,
What he said.
negotiate a price. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries.
Is there any grant money that's involved in this?
Very small.
The grant money could come after,
The study.
and there's, in fact, they just released something this week. The federal government has released
Yeah.
Oh, it's
billions of
billions.
dollars
And
Yeah.
for broadband and fiber optics, but you have to have a proposal, which this will give us,
Yeah, it is.
to be able to apply for that. So, I mean, we could leverage this into millions.
speaking of that, I did get a phone call from a constituent about partnering with a broadband provider that get with you and you. And I think they're looking for, I don't want to say it because I'm not versed in it, but anyway, I'll get with you too and let them explain to you what they're thinking.
And that's, the council has already taken motion with the gig ready application at the state level. And that will ultimately become a partnership of the county council and a select partner. So
Can you have more than one?
You absolutely can have what you like.
Then that's what this pertains to.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So I'd like to say something. political position here.
Previous life.
Yeah. I thought it was a waste of money, all these studies that you see all the time. And these studies aren't cheap. I mean, they can be $100,000 easily. And I always thought such a waste of government money to be doing these things. And today I realized that I was absolutely wrong. These studies enable us to, you writing that down?
She got it recorded.
She got it in the minutes.
These studies
Bold
enable
print
us
that next
to
week, will
get large amounts of money moving forward from grants and such.
The prerequisite in many instances.
I wish in my personal business I could utilize this same type of process and go after these type of grants because they're game changers for our community to be able to do that.
But we're also very selective about requesting and commissioning studies. You know, there's a balance. I mean, there's organizations out there that do study just to do studies, and we don't do that. We usually do a study to leverage more dollars. It goes back to doing, more with less. You spend 100,000 and get 5 million. It's almost like grant writers. We invested in grant writers. We invested in the DRC. I mean, it's that bridge money that this council has had enough vision and foresight to provide so that we're positioned now where we are because of these kind of things.
But it's also a thought process that's put together because, and I'm going to use the airport for example. Over 4 years ago, we came up with a $60,000 to do a study to come up with a 5-year plan, 10-year plan down the road, and the board decided that they wanted to go aggressive with a plan. And I can tell you, we wouldn't be here today where that airport is right now without that board going aggressive and sticking with that. At some point you have to refer back and say, oh yeah, we said we were going to do this. Now's the time to do it. And very fortunate to have done that plan to be, where that airport's at right now. So.
And I'm hopeful that the strategic plan that you folks are working on, that you're part of, for Parks and Recreation, we're already starting to see it bear some fruits early on.
Absolutely.
With the Frog Trail extension and some of the other things, but just the collaborative effort that we're now seeing between Parks and Rec and the county and City of Martinsburg on a lot of these projects that we didn't have 10 years ago. So that all goes into the process.
Yeah, I mean, 6 months from now, I won't be on the spot, but it'll be nice to be able to sit back and watch that develop and see how that plan goes forward because it's absolutely going to be beneficial to making a whole new plan moving forward. So.
I think part of the plan to be successful in Parks and Rec would be to allow the community that it serves to be part ownership. Let them own. I've always said, let our communities be competition with each other on how nice things have been kept up. Rather than complain and do something about it. So, we'll see.
That's kind of our thought process. Eddie and I have had that conversation several times about the park down South Berkeley. Mm-hmm. Getting that community involved and it'll be interesting. There's I've seen a lot of stuff on social media here recently. Matter of fact, they called me, wanted to do an interview about it, and I said, you got to talk to Eddie.
I met with her, and there's still a lot of questions from folks. What are we going to have? Of course, there's still a lot of desire for a pool. But I explained to them, the cost of it, the liability of it, the maintenance of it long term, that it's just not probably doable. At this point of our
Well, I challenged the lady, one lady that is persistent on getting something for elderly to be able to work out, that type of thing. I mean, I challenged her. I said, come up with a plan. Come up with a plan of, estimated cost and those type of things, and then come up with a plan, work on a plan of how it can be self-sustaining, how it can pay its way, and get that put together. And, I told her I'd help her, what I can, but try to work on it. If you're that determined, put it together, come up with something, and then bring it to the county or the Parks and Recs and have that conversation.
All right, this time we'll take a 15-minute break.
You mentioned
All right, we're back in session. Next on our agenda is a board and commission interview with Cora Kowalski, candidate for Berkeley County Criminal Justice Board. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to serve on the Criminal Justice Board, please.
I'm currently the victim advocate in the prosecutor's office. Before I was there, I was the case manager for the drug court participants in Winchester, Virginia, for Frederick County. I was there for 3 years and worked closely with rehabilitation and working with those participants to get them the services and support that they needed. And before that, I was actually with the Jefferson County Prosecutor's Office as a victim advocate there. So I've been kind of in this community, in this area for a while now. And I just feel like this would be a great stepping stone for another role of responsibility, and also bringing some experience and expertise to the area that I've been in for a few years now.
Good. All right. Mr. Barnhart, do you have any questions?
Let's see, you moved here from Frederick County or Jefferson County, or
I was in Jefferson County before moving to Berkeley County.
how do you like it in Berkeley County?
I like it. It's definitely in
Different-
terms of
Different pace?
it is. It's definitely a different pace.
I really don't have any, you sound well qualified, and I don't really have any questions. Thank you for doing what you do, and I know it's gotta be tough to do that.
It has its days, but it's also very rewarding too.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the day report center the criminal justice board deals with more than just the DRC.
Yeah.
Adult drug court and more in juvenile drug court. So this court's experience kind of goes hand in glove with some of the things that they're doing.
Thank you. I thought so too.
All right, Mr. Delier.
So it sounds like you've hit some of the low-lying fruit and finally made it to Berkeley County, which
Yeah.
is good. The Criminal Justice Board serves a very good purpose in oversight and continuing to help us meet the requirements we need to meet in order to continue to do, the day report center, the home confinement, the Criminal Justice Board, all those. So I appreciate your willingness to serve on that board.
Thank you.
Mr. Wood.
The only question I have is when you were in working for you say prosecutor in Winchester, Frederick?
I worked along a community service board
Okay.
in Winchester for that one. So we would have weekly meetings with the prosecutor or the Commonwealth there.
Yes,
So
yeah.
worked alongside them, but not for them directly.
Oh, okay. Was it not as busy as here?
In Winchester and
Yeah.
Frederick County?
How was, I guess in what you were doing there compared to what you were doing here, if you could put a comparison in the two, would you find them to be in the same avenue of need versus what Berkeley needs?
So for my time in Winchester, I worked specifically with just the drug court program. It was very busy there.
Okay.
In terms of what else the prosecutors in Commonwealth were dealing with there. I couldn't speak to that directly,
Okay.
so I was just working with drug court. But it was a really great program, and I would love to do more comparison between the Frederick County Drug Court versus the Berkeley County Drug Court, just to see what similarities there may be, and also maybe what improvements could be made that I could take from my time in Winchester.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Mr. O'Sconnor.
I really don't have any questions. When I look down through your experience, I think you would bring a very vast amount of knowledge to this board. This board is, when you look around the table on this particular board, it's in all different areas of care. Is kind of how I have always seen them, and with your background and experiences, I think you'd be a nice addition to that.
Thank you.
I got a question real quick. I know the prosecutor has to be part of this board. Is she Would she be filling the prosecutor's position or,
It's a victim advocate.
okay, all right.
Sorry, Ed.
And we had
Oh,
a
Jim.
victim, we had a victim advocate on the board, and Cora would take that position.
Okay, all right.
I think every one of those positions, is it everyone but three? I think there's three that aren't requirement, but every one of them but three are a required
Okay.
position.
All right. Well, I guess the important thing is thank you for being willing to serve.
Thank you.
You know, you're young and usually that doesn't happen, and I don't mean that as a real negative way, but anyway, it sounds like you'll be a good fit, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the help for victims as well. I think
Yes.
Oh,
that's
you're
a very,
welcome.
very important role to play.
Thanks, I'm actually about to run to court now, so.
Court, they typically don't make an appointment the same day of interview, but probably in the next week or so, they'll decide.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, Mr. Davis, you're up. Unencumbered fund balance for coal severance fund 002.
Yes, sir. As the council's aware, state code requires that no later than July 15th, July 15th of the year, and then again on July 30th of the year, we have to declare our fund balances first for coal severance and then for the general fund. There was a time, probably 12 or 13 years ago, where, it always gave me pause when we were putting together our January, February, March budget workshops for the new fiscal year as to how to predict where our fund balances will fall. This council, through a wide variety of programs and processes, have made the accuracy of our revenue projections better than they've ever been. And you put in cost controls, cost controls in place that really lends a lot of predictability to the budget. And if you'll recall, it used to be the last 3 months of the fiscal year after we set budget and after we tentatively projected the unencumbered fund balance, we'd have that massive spending frenzy from a number of departments to downspend the money, and then you put internal budget revision approvals in place, and then we put a formal policy and procedure in place for encumbering funds, and that has all lended itself well to a lot more predictability in your budget. We are finalizing the numbers for last fiscal year, and we should have those done hopefully by the end of this week or midweek next week. But I will tell you that in looking down at all of your revenues for the last year, you have been pretty much spot on throughout the process. We've always fallen a little bit short on our projections for current year property tax collections, and we've been tweaking that a little bit over the years, and we actually came in almost $700,000 above projected property tax collections of $22.7 million. So that's our big revenue source. But then when you look down through the list, gas and oil severance, wine and liquor tax, hotel occupancy permit, pilot payments, inspection fees, the list goes on and on. You've been pretty much spot on. So that certainly has made it easier for us to do your budgets and your revenue and expenditure projections. Having said all that, coal severance is by far of the two the easiest one, only because that over the years we've seen coal severance tax continue to diminish. According to information provided by the finance and tax departments, the coal severance cash balance on hand July 1st, 2022 was $248,496.21. This council, knowing that we were going to have that kind of fund balance has already approved $147,881 in encumbrances. That includes $90,881 encumbered to pay Reclaim Company LLC, which is for the demolition of 126 West King Street, which we actually think will begin next week. We finally got the last hurdle out of the way. We had to have First Energy come in and disconnect that power, and that was actually done last Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we also encumbered $57,000 for CEC Inc., which is the payment for the Frog Hollow Route 9 extension project. So that that leaves a remaining unencumbered fund balance of $35,615, which I'm recommending that you put into the capital building account. So this one's pretty straightforward. No unexpected surprises at all. As I said, of the two, this is the easiest of the two.
All right, need a motion to approve.
Motion to accept the county administrator's recommendation on the coal severance fund.
All right,
Second?
motion's been made second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Next item you have, Mr. Davis, is a request from Solid Waste Authority, fiscal year 23 lump sum funding.
Yes, sir. In your packet, you will see an email dated Sunday, June 26, 2022 from Clint Hogman, who is present here today, requesting that the fiscal year 23 allocation to the Berkeley County Solid Waste Authority be made in a lump sum. If the council will recall, you did approve $72,657 allotment to the Solid Waste Authority, $62,977 for recycling, and $9,680 for litter control efforts. But at that time, instead of placing the funds in Department 812, which they typically would be allotted to for purposes of the levy document, you place the funds in Fund 699 contingencies until the relocation of the Inwood recycling location was resolved. And at that time, there had been some ongoing discussion regarding that. Clint's here to talk to the council about his request. If you do decide to provide a lump sum funding, either full or in part, next week, as part of that state budget revision for the unencumbered fund balance for the general fund, we move some money from contingency, or what we would actually do is use some of the unencumbered fund and just put it into Department 812 for allocation. So
All right.
whatever the council's wishes are.
All right, Clint, you want to come forward and give us a little bit more background why you're needing this money at one time?
Absolutely, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Folks may remember back in April, I advised the council that Insorga had notified the state and Solid Waste Authority that it was temporarily closing. The sort of tone of the moment that they thought this would be short term, and the council at that time was very helpful to us by advancing us some funds to cover those missing two quarters. It's now July and they're not restarted. We've got no indication when they're going to restart. The company that owns Insorga is a company called Renovair. They're out of New York. They have simply quit communicating with anyone, whether it be their Italian partners, their contractors, subcontractors, the state, or the Solid Waste Authority. They just simply planned out. Nonetheless, it's been a moving topic. Facility being closed, and there's developing information all the time. But the bottom line is every quarter that goes by, we lose $31,000 in lease revenue. And we can foresee that this next fiscal year, we're going to be short $125,000 of planned revenue from the Absorber project if this continues. So, frankly, we're sort of taking this one day at a time. And we were hoping, Mr. Davis mentioned the inland relocation project is expected to bring us at least $400,000, potentially $600,000, depending on certain implementation phases. And that first $400,000 at the current timeline is expected to be in January or March of next calendar year. So we're trying to bridge the gap, if you will, between now and January. We have written some grants to the state for recycling assistance. That's pending in front of the LEAP folks. And the vast majority of that application was for replacement funds for the resort, that we're losing from the resort in case it's still an issue down the road. But one thing that would bridge us between today and January would be if council advance that we've already allocated, instead of paying it to us in quarters, pay it to us at once. And that would help us bridge the gap. I can't honestly tell you if it would make it all the way, but it would certainly get us a lot closer to being able to pay the bills until that January time frame where the Penrose project.
I think one of the things that I would need to know is what happens if their Ansorga is not back up and running by the end of the calendar year. Because it almost seems like if we fronted you the money all at once, it's kind of like we're not being good stewards with the money because now we're kind of helping you dig yourself into a hole.
Yeah, I think the fault is the Penrose, the funding from the Penrose project that we used to pick up the budget, the solid waste authority's recycling program budget, and keep us sustained for a while. Now, with that said, Ansorga is currently in default of starting to make them notified of that puts us in a position as to being able to implement a handful of different options, and one is ownership of the building. And that's we've been advised by our legal counsel that we could take ownership of the building. Two companies, both Apple Valley and the Italians, have publicly stated their willingness, if somebody could get control of the building, their willingness to help stand it back up as it currently is, or maybe in an improved fashion, or maybe in a little different model. On the agenda, I'll be posting later today, will be a request that I'm making to the Solid Waste Authority to consider forming a subcommittee to pursue that. Because the point is well taken. We just can't keep hunting too far down the road here. Or at some point, you're running out of funds.
And what's the step? You're in your second year of the increase from the tipping fee.
Yep.
Where was it 2 years ago, and where is it projected to be this year?
I'm gonna have to do a little ballparking, Doug.
Okay, yeah. I know the fifth year it's supposed to be 120 some thousand or something.
Right, it's about $25,000 a year.
Uh-huh.
Last fiscal year, the one that just ended, we did receive about $24,000.
Okay.
So the fiscal year that we're starting now should get 50.
be $50,000 more than what you
$50,000.
had 3 years ago, right? So, so with that money, you're still $75,000 short from your lease agreement from the Sorga
Right.
So,
for this year.
yeah, so, I mean, it is a lease that they have.
Right.
And so what happens if they move back in? If they move back in and open it back up, which it obviously it should be a strong possibility. If they move back in and open it back up, they owe you all that revenue from when they stop paying.
I would think so, although
Well,
legal
obviously
counsel
they do.
hasn't chimed in on that. There's even a thought that maybe the lease would have to be rewritten, and a rewrite might require that.
Yeah, I mean, so you basically, I mean, somebody's gonna have to pay that at some point. Unless you guys acquire the property.
Unless we take the building, and then we lose lease revenue completely.
Right,
We
but
would
you
have to-
should be able to, I would think that you'd be able to create an enormous amount of revenue to add to what you already have, once you figure the system out and get it operational, and that's,
There would have to be some operational fee somewhere along the line, some dollar per ton type fee that would replace that.
Right.
It's not uncommon. I mean, Jefferson County Solid Waste Authority does that with a transfer station.
Right.
They own the transfer station, they own the building, they own the land, Waste Management operates it, and they get, I think it's $5 a ton off of that operation.
so.
Not unheard of.
Yeah, I guess my point is, where's the conversation, where's that part of the conversation, when this revenue comes back into the equation?
Well,
I mean, if we're giving you money to supplement revenue that you're not getting, at some point they give you that revenue.
then there, yeah, and this was discussed, I think, at the first time I appeared here, that if suddenly we started getting back revenue from the Insorga project that the council loaned us, that the Solid Waste Authority would return that revenue to the council.
And we had an agreement, if you remember the last quarter, it was 46,125.
I've seen 48, but okay.
$46,125. The county provided us a supplement, but we did put together an agreement that in the event they do recapture some of the lost revenue, that money would be repaid.
Right, so, I mean, my understanding of Insorga is that there's more problems than just the surface problems of them not operating, and that there's actually problems with the process of operating that they're doing in that they were doing as well.
Well, the technology works. They can clearly make fuel from it. Their April the 4th letter to us solely placed the blame on the ability to find an off-take partner, someone to buy the fuel. And I have confirmed with people familiar with the Argos operation that the Argos was down, and in periods when they weren't down, the feed line equipment that would feed the fuel from Insorga was down. And so there was a period of several months, apparently, where Insorga was sort of hit and miss from day to day whether they had the ability to sell their fuel. And so, of course, that's a significant part of their operation. So that part of it would have to be shored up for sure.
I also understand, and I've heard this from other sources, that the high levels of metal in the trash are not the whole Insorga system is based out of Italy or something, and that system over there doesn't have high levels of metal, and that our trash does, because we don't recycle at the levels that they do. So that high levels of metal is causing a problem with the process they're doing.
I understand. My understanding from Emily in Dyson was that problem had been resolved. They had to install multiple magnets,
Right.
Rotary magnets at different
Also, and you and I had a conversation about trying to change some legislation as well, so that they could end up selling fuel to other places other than just West Virginia. Because to me, that's a huge issue when we're 20 minutes away from 2 other states.
Right,
It
right.
doesn't make sense that, they got to transport it halfway across the state to sell.
Yeah, that actually wasn't legislation though, but everybody has agreed that the facility needs the ability to bail its fuel so that it can market farther distances to get those facilities.
Right.
The Italians in their conversation with me and Apple Valley in their conversations with me make it plain that the bailing operation is vital so that they're not dependent on one offtake partner.
But there's also an issue of the amount of, when you talked to us before, it was also about the amount of trash that they were receiving was drastically down as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sorga had complained that the amount coming in was going down as residents of the county was shifting from Apple Valley to Panhandle dumpsters. Panhandle dumpsters does not have permits to dispose of in the state. And Sorga was losing that waste stream, that incoming waste stream. That was a conversation going on a year ago, prior to the announcement. It was not referenced anywhere in the letter that was an issue. I don't know that we know how big of a factor that was. They were definitely concerned about it, and Sorga had approached our legislators about tweaking the certificate of need laws to allow hauling to Sorga, the only one in the state. Any such legislation would just affect us. Then Sorga approached legislators, started the process. They asked if I would write the law, if I would draft it for the legislators, and I had done that. And then within 2 weeks, they withdrew that. They said they didn't want to pursue it. So I wasn't told why they didn't want to pursue it. They just said, we don't want to pursue that. So.
And it's my understanding that Panhandle Dumpsters is trying to get a certificate of need. At this point, we had that conversation as well. So
Yeah, I don't think they've actually applied.
but I think they're in the process of.
Yeah, it is a substantial application. It involves attorneys and so on, and
Right.
research and prep. So they've indicated that. Yeah.
But that makes it sounds to me like if they're in the process of taking over the market, which clearly sounds like they're doing at least a large part of the market on that side of it. It sounds to me like it would be beneficial for local development authorities support those type of things to support that. Because even if you guys end up taking it over, you're going to need that trash in order to operate.
No matter who owns it.
Right.
Right. So the intake's has to be there. And I would encourage the council to go slow on the topic of Panhandle. It's also another developing topic. I've been advised that they've approached other haulers to be purchased. And so a lot of time and energy could be spent to bring competition or bring another hauler that we end up not having. And so, as with a lot of the certificate of need topics, whether it's medical or solid waste or whatever, it tends to be complicated because you had one company that's invested a lot of money, a lot of, in this case, feeds, rolling stock, and if there's a law change like that, it can cause that company substantial financial harm. So, I would encourage, I know the Solid Waste Authority is going slow on that. We want to see the application. We want to see what it says. We want to have a conversation with the Panhandle. The last 3 applicants for a certificate of need, Solid Waste Authority has supported, and the Public Service Commission has issued them. So we take them on a case-by-case basis. But I would encourage the council to go slow.
Does the state have any interest in this at all, being this was the first facility like this built in the country? Was
You
the state
mean
involved?
financial interest? Or,
Yes, sir.
The West Virginia Economic Development Authority was the bonding agent. And I've spoken with them. They approved bonds, then sold those bonds to a private bank. So there's no public funds. There's no state funding. So, many times when I would attend tours and meetings within Sorga, they would always consistently say, this is 100% private funds. And so,
They were just a conduit. They were just a conduit for the financing.
yeah, they actually didn't actually have any money.
And I've only got one other question. And I even hate to bring this up because I know it's something that you all like to do and obviously you're good at it. But I know just personally, if I don't have enough money coming in, there's certain things I start doing without or cutting. So I know your yard waste and brush and that kind of stuff cost you money, substantial money.
Yeah.
Compared to your budget. Have you considered stopping that particular service?
This has all developed so quickly. We haven't, and I guess there was a lot of hope that Insorga was going to come back online. Because again, the tone of it was this is just temporary. There's no doubt that if it begins to look and feel like it's not temporary, but the board will have to consider those tough things. And certainly, the ends of the earth would hate to do that.
Right. But, and I would hate to see it too, because I know a lot of people use those services. But I also know that it's a financial
We have to be able to pay them.
negative impact on you.
It's a good point, Eddie. When the last time the council seen a decline in the economy that we thought was going to hit, we instantly decreased our operating budget by 9%. And it was good that we did.
Yep.
All right, what's the wishes of the county council?
I move to permit the Solid Waste Authority to accept the full amount of $72,657.
$72,657. It originally was quarterly payments. The motion should be to pay this out as a lump sum,
What he's,
if that's what it counts.
a lump sum of 72,000,
657.
whatever you can.
Six what?
$72,657.
Take it out of contingency.
Actually, we'll transfer the money next week, and the check will be available at the end of we'll put it on the purchase order. It'll be available at the end of next week.
Do you need an invoice?
No.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
A second motion.
Have a second motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We're in a predicament. I appreciate the support. And it's not, I don't feel like it's out of the ordinary to keep having these conversations if we learn what we're seeing them.
Well, we wish you well.
But just so we have a good, strong audit trail, will you send me an invoice?
Oh, okay.
And that way we'll make sure the minutes are attached, but we'll have the invoice so that if there's any question why we did it.
Maybe one invoice for litter control and then one for recycling.
Just combine it.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. I'll take it, and I'll put it on purchase order all next week. So by the end of the week, you'll have your check ready. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Davis, you have a resolution to become a participating employer of the West Virginia Emergency Medical Services Retirement System.
Yes, sir. During the 2022 legislative session, 7 delegates, including local delegates Barrett, Hardy, and Householder, sponsored House Bill 4688, which was ultimately passed and became effective June 10th, 2022, that allows all of the county's 22 full-time career firefighters and only those full-time emergency communications dispatchers hired after July 1st, 2022, to transfer and/or join the West Virginia Emergency Medical Services Retirement System. And in your read ahead, I've given you just a short summary of the comparing West Virginia PERS to the West Virginia Emergency Medical Systems Retirement System. And you can see that, of course, the employee contribution increases depending on the tier, whether the employee is a tier 1 or tier 2 employee. The employer contribution for PERS effective July 1st was decreased from 10% to 9%. For the emergency medical system, that employer contribution is 9.5%. Vesting is the same. What really benefits the employee is the age in which the public safety personnel become normal retirement eligible, and also the benefit multiplier. You can see the benefit multiplier under PERS is 2% times the final average salary times years of service, whereas for anyone between 1 and 20 years under the Emergency Medical Services Retirement System, that multiplier is 2.75%. So it does provide earlier normal retirement, and it also provides greater benefits.
So
This
how,
is starting from scratch?
Pardon me, sir?
It's a brand new system starting?
No, this system's been in place. It's the ambulance authority participates.
Oh.
But until recently, since we have the only career firefighting system in the state, it did not include career firefighters. So there's been an effort underway for a couple of years, Eddie, to get the law amended to allow career firefighters. Well, then 911 centers got involved, and they wanted telecommunicators included. And I think there's been some ongoing conversations with delegates Barrett, Hardy, and Householder to amend this to allow us to go back and recapture. Right now, the law only allows new 911 operators to join. It doesn't do anything for anyone that was hired prior to July 1st of this year. So we want to go back and correct that, which we think will correct next legislative session. So if for county employees to be eligible to participate in the new retirement system, the council must pass and adopt the resolution to become a participating employer, which I've included in your packet. All full-time emergency communications dispatchers hired after July 1st, 2022 must join the system as a condition of employment. They have no choice. But then the 22 current full-time firefighters individually must notify both the council and the Consolidated Public Retirement Board in writing of his or her desire to join the new system no later than December 31st, 2022. And then once made, the election is irrevocable. Any full-time firefighters hired after July 2022 have to join this condition of employment. So
all right, so
we have the money budgeted. There's also provision in the law that we're still trying to find out. Because the benefit is better, there's going to be some unfunded liability that goes along with it to recapture past credited service for the 22 career firefighters. We have heard there's $360,000 set aside that the state will provide to us to help fund that. that past credited service, so
they
we're
will-
working on
so
that
they
also.
will- They're looking in the future to give them credit for their past time service.
They're actually going to go back and recapture service back to the full-time hire date. This is good for our
Oh, it's
employees.
It's a tremendous opportunity, not only for the employees, but as a recruiting tool. It puts our firefighters really on a real close level with competing counties
Right.
for firemen. So I think it's a great move for them to be able to get that, and they work hard to get it, and the legislators worked hard during the session to make it happen.
So just so I'm clear, currently, right now, until some revisions are done, this will be for new hires only.
It'll be the 22 career firefighters, depending on their election. And I've already heard that all 22 of our career firefighters want to join.
Okay,
So we'll work with them individually to get all the paperwork done.
so it'll start from July 1st,
And then
2022.
anyone hired after July 1st automatically, if the council adopts the resolution,
So-
will automatically be.
So until July 1st, it'll be under PERS.
Now, if they elect, the West Virginia Emergency Medical System will go back to their hire date.
I
So
thought
they'll recapture all that credited service.
I thought you said the legislators had to go.
No, it's just full time.
I thought you said the legislators had to go back and.
That's for 911
Okay,
dispatchers.
all right.
The firefighters were good. Our dispatchers, we have some work yet to do. And we've been assured that it'll be cleaned up.
And would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to make that motion.
Well-
That
I'm anxious to hear it.
that the Berkeley County Council allow the professional firefighters of Berkeley County to enter into the Emergency Medical Service Retirement System.
Adopt the resolution
And adopt the
and
resolution.
authorize the council president to sign, please.
And authorize the President and Council to sign.
I'll second it. That is 911 after, that are hired after
Correct.
the start date.
All eligible personnel.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor, we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed, the motion carries. You have some declaration for surplus property.
Yes, sir. Just one small minor matter. As the council's aware, West Virginia Code 7-7-23 allows the sheriff the opportunity to award deputies that meet certain qualifications their service weapon. You have a request before you from Sheriff Harmon to award her service weapon to Sergeant Colleen Thompson, who retired July 15, 2022 with 20 years of service. We invited the sheriff and Sergeant Thompson in today for the ceremony, but they unfortunately weren't available. But as we've done in the past, we'll schedule that. So it is a Glock pistol model 17, 9mm caliber, and you have the serial number on the declaration of surplus property.
Okay, entertain a motion.
Second?
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Any other items from the public?
Yes.
Second forward.
Sure.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Dan James. I'm the prosecuting attorney for Morgan County. I was asked to appear here today for an issue that was potentially supposed to be on the agenda. I had the agenda in front of me. I wasn't here earlier this morning, but I believe there was a motion to approve the agenda as published on the website. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No.
There was an email that was circulated about 2 days ago requesting the appearance of the Health Department, the Morgan County / Berkeley County Health Department. That email states that they asked that the board be present, as well as Mr. Kearns and Dr. McLaughlin. There was an email that was circulated back to, I believe, the county administrator saying due to the short notice and the scheduling conflict, that meeting be continued until the following week. A reply email from the
county administrator was sent back, advising that pursuant to the president's request, it was highly recommended that the board members, along with Mr. Kearns and Dr. McLaughlin, be present for this meeting. I was not aware of any of this until about 4:30 last night when I got a phone call about a potential conflict. I was briefed on some of the issues, and I advised the health department that I would appear on behalf because of a conflict that comes up from time to time in different counties. Nevertheless, I understand that the county council has decided not to go forward with that meeting, at least not for today. I understand there's been a request to possibly reschedule that meeting for the 4th of August. I'm unavailable. I will be in trial or pre-trial hearings that day. I would ask that if this matter does find its way to the agenda, that it possibly be scheduled for the following week, the 11th. I would also ask, too, that the email says that today's hearing, we were going to be going into executive session. And I would remind the county council that those decisions cannot be made in advance of the hearing. You can make that motion. It is a violation of the Open Governmental Meeting Act to send a request telling a party that they will be going into executive session. Again, I hope there's no retaliatory action that's taken by this county council. I find it very suspect that this was canceled here at the last minute, given there was a request by the board to continue this meeting. And I look forward to addressing any of the issues that the county council may have. As you can see, Mr. Kearns and the fellow board members of the health department are all present. They made themselves available here today. They were prepared to answer any questions that the council has. For whatever reason, it was decided not to address that, even though there was a stern warning to make sure that everyone was present for today's meeting. Thank you.
We'll take your statements under advisement, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. At this time, we'll, is there any need for, I think there's still need for executive session.
Yes, sir, it is. Make a motion to go into executive session, sir, with potential removal of board members and personnel issues.
All right. I have a motion on the floor. We have a second.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We are in executive session.
Put that in the back door.
You're one.
All right, we're
Thought it was amazing.
out of the executive session. No action will be taken. Mr. Barnard, you do the honors.
Mr. President, I'd like to, I move to recess.
We are recessed.
What is this? We're supposed to have this.